Welcome back to the Bates Kitchen. Sporting a little bit of a new look today. My kids got me this. We took them to the Universal Epic Studios down in Florida, and they got me a vest from Dragonland. So we're eating like a dragon person today. What are they called? Vikings. We're eating like a Viking today. Got Bradley back there helping me. I love a dish that I can make in one pot and feed an entire family. This is one of my favorite one-pot dinners. I can't believe that I haven't shared this one sooner. This is my Tuscan chicken. You're going to love this one. Let's get started. The first thing I do when I'm cooking any recipe that has meat in it is I pull my meat out and salt it. Or if you're doing a brine, I pull it out and brine it. Some meats do better after an overnight brine. For this, good salt and pepper and set it aside. 15 to 20 minutes with salt, especially if you're pan searing, will completely change the flavor profile of whatever you're cooking. So anyways, I got in such a hurry. We've had a lot of technical difficulties getting this one started, and I completely forgot to smash this down before I salted it. You don't always need to smash the chicken flat. I'm doing this because my wife prefers thin chicken. Me personally, I prefer the way it looks to have a big, plump, juicy chicken breast, you know, sitting right there and covered in sauce. I think that that is the perfect shape. But if she likes them thin, we do them thin. We all know that happy wife makes a happy life, so we aim to please with our cooking. If you're doing the fast version, I've got both recipes down in the caption. If you're doing the fast version, don't pound your chicken out. Leave it whole. It's going to look better. Oven baking chicken is going to cook more evenly. That's one of the main reasons to use an oven, is for that even, juicy cooking. And then I'm going to add a little more salt to the side that I pounded, because I pounded most of the salt off. And we're going to set this aside. I will say that every time I cook, I feel like it leaves a war zone in the sink. We've got 5 kids, so yeah, we make a lot of messes, and I've been learning more about what we actually use to clean it up. Research shows that over 90% of parents are concerned about microplastics in their homes, but most don't even realize that they're cleaning with them every single day. That's one reason that I've made the switch to Blueland. I switched our hand soap to Blueland last year. I liked the refill tablets, the scents were clean and simple, it was affordable, and at the time I had no idea how many cleaning products I was using that actually contain microplastics. Their products don't use single-use plastics. I'm not worried about microplastics going down the drain, harsh chemicals I have to second guess around the kids or the dog. Since starting with the hand soap, I've added their dishwasher tablets. There's no plastic film, no weird residue, just clean dish with all the junk. And now I use their multi-surface cleaner too. It stays out on the counter. I use it after dinner. Whatever mess happens during the day, I just spray it and wipe them. And when it runs out, I just drop in a new tablet and refill the bottle. No single-use plastics, and made without things like parabens, phosphates, ammonia, or bleach. All the stuff that we try to avoid with 5 kids and a dog running around. They're also certified by EPA Safer Choice, USDA BioPreferred, and Cradle to Cradle, which is the global standard for products that are safe, circular, and responsibly made. It's one of the few swaps that we've made that actually felt easy. It's just safer for our family, and it works. If you've been thinking about Blueland, now is the perfect time. Blueland is offering a special discount just for my viewers. All you have to do is scan the QR code here on the screen or click the link down below and get 15% off of your first kit from Blueland. Okay, so this is really simple. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slice up a couple cloves of garlic here. We'll do 3 because we like extra garlic in everything. Not trying to smash them flat, just trying to hit them a little bit to break off that skin, make them a little easier to peel, because garlic always isn't the easiest that way. So one of the things with this garlic, we're going to leave it sliced thinly instead of mincing it, and I'm just going to chop this little end part off. Not that you have to, I like to. And then we're going to go this way, and we're just going to... Now right here when I get to the end and it's kind of curved, I can stand that up on the flat side. That roasting in there is going to just taste amazing. Put a little glass bowl here to put all this in so we can easily dump it. Now our shallot's really simple. Cut the top off. I'll cut it in half this way. Boom. Just like I was doing an onion. So interestingly enough, one of the things that I have learned most from doing YouTube, when I first started, I quickly found out the internet is quick to teach you things, especially if you're doing them the wrong way, that I was holding my knife wrong and I was cutting my onions wrong, and shallots and garlic and everything else. And one of the best things that has happened to me is learning how to do it the correct way. Using the correct grip on my knife, you can cut a lot longer with less fatigue, and you get a lot more precise cuts. And you can cut them a lot even when you cut things the proper way. For onions, I've seen a lot of different people do it a lot of different ways, and I've done it a lot of ways, but kind of the same as shallots. So if you look, and I don't know if we can get this on camera here, if you look how it's kind of round and coming up, we're going to slice it this way from the top to make these cuts even, but these would be a lot longer going down. So all we're trying to cut, we don't need to cut a bunch of cuts up through here. We just need to cut anywhere it's round. So right through there, if you look, that'll make an even little square on the bottom, and all these will be even because we're slicing them this way. So it's really simple. So we'll just come across here. Sometimes if that arch is really high, you'll need 2 cuts. We'll just come through once there, and then we'll cut down. And now when we cut across, all these will be even little squares. If you look across that, those are just perfectly even little pieces, little mints of shallot. So this dish, I'm going to need some sun-dried tomatoes and some of the sun-dried tomato oil. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out, and these are already julienned. So for this, we'll use about 1/3 cup of sun-dried tomatoes. These are already julienned, but I like to cut them just a little smaller. And these are a little tough, so just be aware of that if you go to cut them. I love the flavor that sun-dried tomato adds. It's different from just regular tomato. Adds so much to this dish. And the last thing I'm going to do before we go to cook is just grate a little bit of Parmesan here to add that cheese to the sauce, which is Whitney's favorite part of any dish I make, and she'll ask, does this have Parmesan cheese in it? Or I'll ask her 4 or 5 different recipes. Which of these recipes would you like me to try to cook next? And she'll be like, I want something that has Parmesan cheese in it, especially if it has to do with chicken. All right. Now everything else that we do, we'll do on the stove top. Okay, so let's go cook some Tuscan chicken. So I got my dry seasoning blend here, and all of that is down in the description. And I'm going to mix that up, and I'm going to put this over my chicken fairly generously. I left out most of the salt in this one because I pre-salted the meat. You can actually use this dry rub at the start if you just want to start by seasoning it and letting all these seasonings sit on the chicken. Perfectly fine. I honestly should have probably started like this, but the whole reason I'm cooking this recipe, my sister came and babysat for us while we were in Florida this last week, and she loves getting to cook and things like that. She loves trying out my recipes, and I actually should have her on sometime, Ellie. She's a great cook. But she said the thing with your recipes is you always get the most elevated version, and it's the most time consuming. She goes, I need things that are fast. I said, well, I love fast. I love a crock pot as much as anybody. I love throwing something in the oven as much as anybody. This thing's been preheating, and I burned my last oil test on there, that little mark. Oh well, we'll wash it off. And as I'm putting these in here, we're going to do these about 4 minutes per side. So I've included both versions of the recipe down under here. You don't actually have to pan sear your chicken and take the time. This really elevates the flavor. It adds that browning. It adds some texture to it, and it takes the dish to the next level. But this is a recipe that you can absolutely take all the ingredients, put them in a pan, and I've got the full recipe on how to do that, slide it in the oven, and 40 minutes later come back to dinner cooked and served. You can do a huge pan for 10 people if you wanted to, and it all comes out beautifully. For me though, I just like the added touch, and it's hard for me to get out of the habit of taking the added touch to make food just taste and look a little bit better. See, that is more the golden brown you're looking for. This is patience, and this is why patience is a virtue that really matters in the kitchen. It's got a good little golden brown to it. You can see it's not a bad looking chicken. I wouldn't be a bit disappointed if somebody handed that to me on a plate. But look at this deep golden brown here and how much better that looks like it's going to taste. I mean, you can tell when you see it that is going to taste better with that nutty butter flavor mixed into that crust. It truly is the little things that make the biggest differences. That's what I get excited about. I've actually got quite a few of these one-pot chicken meals, as I kind of refer to them as, because they just kind of cook in one pot with some kind of creamy sauce, different flavors. There's some mushroom one that I really love that I actually said I was going to share last year and completely forgot about sharing. There's the spinach and lemon one, which was episode number 3. That's the first kind of one-pot chicken I ever did, and I did that actually back when we were filming the show because I wanted an easy one to cook coming home from work. And I knew the flavor profile I wanted. It was really easy to put together. And from that, I started developing what other things can I do that are similar to this. And that still is probably one of my family's favorite dinners. Whitney just calls it the chicken with the lemon on top. It's actually the 3rd video I ever made here, and I'm kind of embarrassed to go back and look at it because we've learned so much about filming since then and learned so much about kind of making these recipes for the camera. But all in all, it was one of those things that really made an impact on me cooking on something that could be easy and at the same time taste restaurant quality or even better than you would ever eat at a restaurant. If you're cooking in the oven, pull it off around 140. You don't want, if you are searing first and then transferring to the oven, kind of a hybrid to get the browning but still have the oven bake, especially if you're using a thick chicken breast, you don't want to do a thick chicken breast completely in the pan. If you don't pound them flat, you're going to have issues. Now I'm going to cheat just a little bit because I don't want this fond burning. You could use white wine. I'm just going to use a little broth to go ahead and clean the bottom of my pan here. Because I'm cooking the chicken in 2 batches, I don't want a dirty pan. And I don't want all that flavor getting burnt because burnt doesn't taste good. So we'll dump this back in when we make the sauce. So we pulled our last chicken off. I'm going to throw some butter in here and let it kind of simmer down a little bit here. Now you don't need high heat for shallots. We want a lower heat. These start getting aromatic quick. They smell really good. Now we're going to throw these garlic in. And these are going to be really quick, about 30, 35, 40 seconds, somewhere in there. I mean, as soon as they get aromatic, which is almost instantly, you can feel them in that heat getting aromatic. And you'll see we've got that brown. When I'm talking about the brown on the bottom of the pan, this is exactly what I'm meaning. It's not a black. We're talking about right in here. This gold, deep gold brown. This is loaded with flavor. You can't get this in the oven. Okay, you're going to have all the other flavors, all the seasonings, and they're going to taste great. But you can't get this in the oven. Now, this is the perfect place to deglaze with a little bit of white wine. I'm out of white wine. I do cook with it. I love it. It elevates the dish to a whole new level. If not, this is the greatest hack for any recipe that deglazes with white wine. Just use a little bit of broth. Chicken broth, because this is chicken. We're going to go in there with a little splash of it. And now we're going to scrape the bottom of our pan. And watch how clean this pan gets. Scrape it. This is what deglazing is. It's pulling all of that flavorful brown and all of that fond off the bottom of this pan and putting it into our sauce. All those sugars that have cooked out, all of that fond, all of that is right here in this broth. I'm going kind of up on the sides here where I poured it. It kind of stuck a little bit, so I'm just going up and working that off. We're going to let this reduce down. If this was wine, if I was using this with wine, like the recipe actually calls for, you'll see the recipe in the description call for that. I was just out today, and I should have went to the store. But you can reduce it by about half because you want it to thicken up. You want the alcohol to burn out, and you want to get that, which is going to take some of that acid out and give it a sweet flavor too. It helps with that. Now, this is where I deglazed the pan from the chicken several times to keep that from burning. That's all this juice. I saved it. I reserved it. So I'm going to pour all that in there. Deep golden brown. Got some of that chicken fat. You can see it on the top. We're just going to reduce this down a little bit. Look at that deep, 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 deep brown gold. That's just, I mean, you could literally drink this like a high protein milkshake. So the best part of every dish, actually the best part of cooking, whether or not it's on camera, is eating what you've cooked. And this one is no different. I'm gonna just cut a piece off here. Now, a lot of times I will pre-cut this chicken for the kids, but for me, this goes perfect on a bed of mashed potatoes. I've got some honey thyme carrots there. I need to share that recipe too someday. Let's just put this in and see how it tastes. You've got an herby chicken, that Tuscan herby chicken. It's got that little bit of fennel seed in there. Don't miss that. It says optional, but it completely changes the flavor profile from anything else, any of the other creamy one-pot chickens that you'll taste. The thing for me is you have this creamy, herby chicken. That fennel, don't miss the fennel. It really makes a difference. And see how good it is? Look at this. They're over here taking my plate. This one right here is one that I promise if you make it one time, you're gonna make it 100 times. And you'll thank me later. Rate my dish, 1 to 10.
10. 10.
You're supposed to say 12. Try it again. 12. Rate my dish, 1 to 10.
12.
See, that's how you teach your kids to do this. Got to get a proper rating from them. You tell them what you want them to rate it. Give me a description of this like you're watching that Gordon Ramsay show with all them kids' chefs.
It's hard to fathom.
Do you think the Burke people would eat this?
Yes.
The Vikings? Would the Vikings love this?
Yes. They might not make it because they don't have pots and pans.
It would have been gone before we even got here.
Oh yeah. This one's a winner in my book. As Bradley eats the whole chicken. Watch this. Watch this. Instead of just spearing it, just take the side of your knife and cut it. So do you think this is better than the Thalfest platter?
No. We're supposed to say it.
I worked my butt off on this. What about my carrots? Tell me, try my carrots. See if they're better than the Thalfest platter carrots.
Yes.
I didn't eat their carrots. I skipped them.
Oh.
Honestly,
So probably better because I don't know.
Even amount. I can't.
Even amount. They didn't have broccolini. They did have French fries though, and it's hard for mashed potatoes to beat a French fry.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Although I prefer mashed potato. When you grow up, you'll rather have mashed potatoes than French fries is my bet.
Dad,
I do now.
is an even rate.
The
Well,
only
folks-
reason I would pick the platter over this is because it only had
Do you
the
remember
only
the
meat
thing
is
with the
chicken
thing?
meat. That one had chicken legs, sausages, fish. So this is
So I've got to
only
cook. I've got to cook chicken legs, sausage, and fish. So you're for quantity over quality.
Remember
If
the
you just
thing
had
with
one
the-
bite, which one wins with just only one bite? I'm really aiming for some approval here, guys.
Okay, that is true.
Yes.
Cook all day, and your kids want to eat a chicken nugget.
Hey, I'm gonna eat this.
It's not a chicken nugget. It's a chicken leg.
Cook all day, and your
I'll
kids want to eat a
probably
chicken
like
leg.
this.
I said this was
I'll
an
probably
even
pick
amount.
this. Only because of the special sauce.
I'm just going to keep pressuring them until they choose this every time. You should do the same for your kids. It'll make them appreciate your cooking way more.
Our battery's gone.
And this plate is one for the books.